but now they know they do anything with the power. Every day, dollar just they get the higher power over naira. Still them talk say, make we off mind. But thank God say, Maiyegun don't come.
The glorified criminals called the Nigeria Hero Past. And I want to, I'm going to take it through a write-up, a very, very detailed, interesting write-up that I want to share with you. Because one of the things that they did, these people who claim to be the leaders of Nigeria, including those who have been at the affairs, at the helms of affairs one time or the other in the past or even present, what they have successfully done is that they have managed to expunge history from our curriculum, and it is deliberate. It is deliberate because those who perpetrated the criminality against humanity, the ones ever seen before, crimes against humanity, crimes against their own people, in vengeance, the vengeance that is now of today in Nigeria. It didn't start today. It started a long time ago. Nigeria was meant to break up in 1966. Yes, that was the year that Nigeria was meant to break up, 6 years after independence, because Nigeria was never put together to be one, right? Everybody had to be, their own, everyone to his own tent, to your own destiny. But in 1966, history changed, because some certain criminals in the northern Nigeria who came together in what they called retaliatory coup, because they considered the first coup in Nigeria then as a coup against the northern Nigeria. So a coup against northern Nigeria, according to them, was a war on northern Nigeria. It was pretty much like when the identity politics was taken to the fake one Nigeria national level. Do you get that now? So these guys retaliated to kill those that killed their leaders so that they could then secede from Nigeria. It's so unfortunate that those who started this, the campaign, the war to break up Nigeria, were those who are now holding on to Nigeria, telling us that Nigeria is one indivisible country, indissoluble country, united, fake united country. Okay, it wasn't meant to be. And we need to keep reminding ourselves. We need to keep telling ourselves, how did we get here? Why is it that even when some of you think that you know the right thing to do to bring unity to a country so divided with so much hate and tribal strife, everyone says they have a solution, those who have attempted it, but it got worse. The reason is because it was never meant to be. We have those who are old enough to know this history very well. But we now have the army of ignorant, miseducated, in fact, uneducated young people who have been brainwashed with the whitewash history that they put on those criminals who forced Nigeria together, not because they want a one united Nigeria, but because they want an opportunity to punish those they considered as those who killed their leaders. Don't forget that. Today, Southwest Nigeria is boiling, burning. Northern Nigeria is already like, war zone. The Eastern Nigeria is now also burning because people are resisting these state-sponsored terrorists. Okay, and the tradition of forgiving criminals who are from the Northern Nigeria, who have committed grievous, murderous, crimes against humanity, who have violated their oath of, office, being soldiers, military men, right? Who have done that and they got away with it. It is the tradition of forgiving them or even compensating them didn't start today. It started in 1966. I picked up this write-up, which I'm going to share with you. It is written, detailed by Muritala Muhammed. You can read with me. I can put it on the screen for you. I just want this to go straight into the mind of those who have forgotten and for those who have never heard of this before and asking themselves that, why is it not working? Why is Nigeria so this and that? The impunity, the criminality, the compensation for criminals, which you are all witnessing today, started long time ago. And there is no country that honor terrorists, honor criminals, compensate criminals that will ever attain any height. of greatness. It's never going to happen. The people who have been subjected to these criminalities in the country right now, who have been threatened, traumatized, not to react, or else they will be tagged tribal bigots, right? It's a lie. It is the blackmail they have been using for so long to tell you not to tell your story. When you tell your story, yeah, they will tell you that your story seems, somehow ethnical. Therefore, you are about to start an ethnic war. The blackmail they have been using, they whitewashed some of these heads of states. They call them. They are criminals, and it all started from January 15, 1966, when Aguiyi Rossi became the first military head of state. And then he suspended the constitution, the regional system of government, and abrogated the entire country together to become one Nigeria. The Malam from the north, the younger soldiers, like Muritala, Abacha, Buhari, and many, many of them, they felt slighted. That how could an Igbo man become the leader of the entire country? It was a new thing. It wasn't part of the plan of when they gave independence to Nigeria. Okay. So they retaliated, and with the plan that they will never, ever be under any Southerner as the overall president of a country that they are part of. So they wanted to break away. In fact, they killed Aguiyi Rossi and the rest of them because these young soldiers, Muritala and Co., they wanted to go away. But Muritala was compensated, right? When Gowon took over, when their coup that killed Aguiyi Rossi, they nearly started the war. They ran back to the north. Do you get that now? They ran back. They were expecting the rest of the southern Nigeria to start a war and move with them, just like they did. But that didn't happen. They were told that there is going to be a vacuum. I'm going to read the story back again, especially for those of you who possibly deliberately choose not to remember this, or you've never heard it before. I'll share it on my screen. If you have the time, read along. I'll do my best to read right as well. Let's take a look. 1966. Nigeria's whitewashed heads of state, the Kano emperors, the history that will guide you to understand why Nigeria is what it is now, and why those who see themselves as superiors see themselves as superiors. You need to trace it back. And those who are encouraging them, enabling them, yes, they are also not new. Back in the days when these criminalities were perpetuated, there were those who supported them from outside the clan of these murderous criminals, okay? But rather than these murderous criminals to be tried for crimes against humanity, they were compensated. They were even named a monument after them. They were singing their praises. Muritala became a prominent face everywhere. Your international airport, your 20 naira notes. They were telling children that he was the best president and that Nigeria didn't enjoy. But he was a murderous, criminal. Somebody like Shekau of today, but who are the insignia of the Nigeria government to do that. I'm going to read now. Let's start. On January 15, 1966, Nigeria suffered its first military coup. The military coup was erroneously tagged an Igbo coup because most of the coup plotters were majors from the east, even though most grew up in the north and spoke Hausa better than Igbo. And in July 1966, there was a rematch. Aggrieved northern soldiers who felt they needed to avenge the death of their top soldiers and politicians killed in the January coup started to threaten mutiny. The suspicion was aggravated by the infamous Unification Decree, Decree 34, announced by the Nigeria's head of state, Aguiyi Rossi, an Igbo man. The decree aimed to eliminate regionalism in Nigeria by enforcing a strong central government. Remnant of this decree is still found in Nigeria's federalism structure, empowering the central government above other units today. Decree 34 came at the wrong time, from the wrong person. Northerners thought it was an attempt to take regional power from them and give it to an Igbo man. and that the January coup was all along an Igbo plan to take over Nigeria. Fresh from the wounds of their slain leaders, all Northerners, regardless of ethnicity or religion, united for vendetta. Look at them, the picture there on your screen. Now, despite being warned of an impending counter coup, Irosi paid lip service to it. Why not? He was surrounded by Northern officers in his military council, and he had been more Northern than he was an Eastern man. Irosi showed loyalty to Tafawa Balewa, to the detriment of Azikiwe and Amadu Bello while they were alive, and continued to display loyalty to the North. But it was not enough. To the angry Northern soldiers, a baby crocodile was still a crocodile, and as long as it was from the East, they were not safe. Northern Nigerian lieutenants like Abacha, Sheleng, Dambo, Wali, Jega were on the neck of the most senior Northern officer, Lieutenant Colonel Gowon, that unless the top officers took action to revenge their slain politicians and soldiers, they would. When Gowon took no step towards avenging them, the soldiers turned to Inspector of Signals, Lieutenant Colonel Muritala Muhammed, who became the de facto leader of the revenge action. He was aided by Majors Martin Adamu and Theophilus Danjuma. So let's meet Muritala, the man they claim to be a hero in Nigeria, and they continue to sing his praises. 45 years ago, this murderer became a prominent figure nationally in Nigeria, and that was 1966. Muritala was born in Kano, November 8, 1938, to Rizkua Muhammad and Uwani Rahamat. He had his primary education in Sekin Gida and Geda Makama primary schools. He used the name Muritala Kurawa in primary school and subsequently changed to Muritala Muhammed. Like most Northerners in pre-colonial Nigeria, Muritala attended government college, Zaria, now Barewa College, and started military training in 1959 at Teshe, Ghana. His military teacher in Ghana was Chukwuemeka Ojukwu. After his program in Ghana, Muritala went to the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst, UK. He was commissioned into the Nigerian Army in 1961 as a second lieutenant. Muritala went on a peacekeeping mission in Congo, rose in rank, and went back for an advanced course in telecommunications. He was then promoted as major, temporary, and officer commanding 1 Signal Squadron in Apapa, Lagos. In 1966, Muritala was one of the aggrieved Northern soldiers who did not hide their displeasure at the death of their Northern leaders. Muritala even called Aguiyi Ironsi a fool, even though he was head of state. He was ahead of Muritala, and military discipline precluded this. By mid-1966, Muritala had started actively plotting mutiny. He would often drive to Ibadan from Lagos, pick up Northern officers in Ibadan at a predetermined rendezvous point, and then drive around Ibadan without stopping while brainstorming various options for a counter coup. It was easy for Muritala to command absolute solidarity from all Northern soldiers because the January coup had ruthlessly taken Northern leaders, regardless of what part of the North they were from. This catalyzed into a one North political bloc that would dominate Nigeria politics for the next 4 decades. In July 1966, Muritala had his way through a series of uncoordinated repressor attacks in military barracks in Abeokuta, Ikeja, and Ikoyi. Igbo soldiers were shot dead in their quarters, some as they rose in the morning, others as they reported for physical duty. At this time in Nigeria, soldiers were limited from serving in their region of birth, and most of the barracks in the West were filled with Northerners and Easterners. Northerners had majority infantrymen, as most Eastern soldiers in the military were educated and had higher ranks than Northern infantry, non-commissioned officers. the minority junior Eastern officers were butchered in the West. Those in the North were not spared. Yoruba people were lesser in the army, and the Hausa soldiers who didn't fit into barracks in the East and West served in the North. Still having a majority and home advantage, Ojukwu was the governor of Eastern Nigeria, and he allowed Northern soldiers in the East to return home safely. Eastern soldiers weren't so lucky. When Northerners ran out of Igbo soldiers to kill, they started killing civilians. When the Igbo civilians' population diminished, Northern soldiers started killing non-fluent Hausa speakers. They killed some Northerners, Westerners, and people from minority groups. The bloodshed reached Northerners, especially those who didn't speak Hausa fluently, prompting the Emir of Kano to intervene and appeal to soldiers to go back to barracks to limit the killings there. Now, this is Nigeria's first post-independent secession attempt. While the genocide was ongoing, the Northern soldiers orchestrating the killings gave conditions for a ceasefire. 1. Repatriation of Northerners and Southerners back to their respective regions. The secession of Northern Nigeria from Southern Nigeria. It was the first time that statement was made, and it was made by the coup plotters, those who revenged the coup of 1966. They were the first people to ask that Northern Nigeria should break away from Southern Nigeria. Even though today they are the ones saying nobody can break Nigeria. Nigeria is going to break up. Take that from me, sooner or later. The mutineers hijacked a British V610 plane and forced the pilot to fly 96 of the mutineers and their families back to the North. But this was not unanimous. Gowon was still not in support of the mutiny and secession. Gowon tried to buy time for negotiation. But Muritala made it difficult, charging soldiers to destroy Lagos before leaving the West. A northern judge, Justice Bello, was able to buy more time by reminding the soldiers that all the nation's money was in the central bank located in Lagos, asking them how they would pay their troops' salaries after seceding. It was no surprise that when Muritala became head of state, he pushed for the federal capital to be moved to a virgin area carved in the north, Abuja. It was clear that Muritala did not at any time intend to mutiny to hold power. With Ironsi killed, a coup plotter would have declared himself head of state, but Muritala wanted Lagos to burn, while Northerners returned home. Even if he wanted to declare himself head of state, he might have faced stiff opposition. Brigadier Ogundipe was the highest ranking officer alive after the mutiny, and behind him were a host of other top officers. Muritala wanted only chaos. He got it. Over 30,000 Southerners were killed, with over 2 million refugees fleeing from different parts of the country to run back to the east. Because of the nature of these programs, the Igbo people have been tagged the Jews of Nigeria, reminiscing Jewish massacre in the hands of Nazi Germany. It was an ugly time to be anything but fluent Hausa-speaking Northerner. How Nigeria progressed. There was a task power tussle from July 29 to August 1, 1966 in Nigeria. The Igbo head of state had been killed. The Northerners had had their pound of flesh. Not all Northerners wanted to secede, fearing that the South would have economic power. Oil was the new gold, which could mean ruin for them. But the mutineers did not want to leave power for anyone other than a Northerner. They feared they would be tried and punished for their mutinous acts. Ogundipe, who could have become the head of state, refused power, as it would lead to another coup almost as soon as he restarted government. At this point, to the northern mutineers, any area south of the Niger was the South, and the South would punish them if given power. Eventually, they agreed that the highest ranking northern officer, Lieutenant General Yakubu Jack Gowon, should become the head of state. At 32, the Bachelor Gowon became the youngest head of state in Africa. This changed the superiority chain in the military, as Gowon was not the highest ranking soldier, nor was he even the highest in his rank, with several other soldiers like Ojukwu commissioned before him. From that day, the person who was able to take over power with brute force owned the highest rank in the military. To protect Muritala, Abacha, and the other mutineers, Nigeria embraced might means right. And none of the mutineers was ever charged for their roles in the mutiny of July 1966 that killed scores of Southerners. This will soon prove to become an Achilles heel for Gowon. It is noteworthy that the majors who executed the January 1966 coup were yet to face trial and were being held in prison across Nigeria. Muritala and Co. wanted them summarily executed. Gowon wanted justice. Civil war was next. Courtesy, Muritala, the bloodsucker. Despite Gowon becoming head of state, Muritala's bloodletting was insatiable. Muritala refused a direct order from the Supreme Military Council on different occasions and would occasionally walk into Supreme Military Council meetings uninvited. Gowon was afraid of Muritala and tried to avoid him. With Gowon as head of state, the northern soldiers conducted themselves as overlords. Muritala wanted Ojukwu and the East to grovel, but Gowon wanted peaceful resolution of the conflicts. Gowon was head of state on one part. Muritala was an unhinged leader on another part. As Gowon struggled to stabilize himself in power, random murders of Eastern region soldiers continued to occur. On August 12, 1966, several non-commissioned officers from the Eastern region were rounded up and killed by northern soldiers in Apapa, Lagos. Several summary convictions happened across the nation. Ojukwu could have at this point declared war on Nigeria, but he was in a tight position. Most of the senior northern officers most of the senior northern soldiers had trained, schooled, and were close friends with him. The Emir of Kano was in June named the Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in the East because of his relationship with Ojukwu. It was, in fact, the assurance of Azan, Katsina, and the Emir that Ojukwu had told the Easterners to return to the North in June, where they were killed en masse. Ojukwu, feeling part guilty and part angry, told all Easterners to return home till there was headway. Over 2 million Easterners did. Gowon wanted to negotiate with Ojukwu, and after several attempts, Ojukwu agreed to meet on a neutral ground. They met in Aburi, Ghana. In Aburi, Ojukwu, an enchanting orator, was able to convince Nigeria to accept his propositions. Ojukwu did not agree with Gowon's elevation above other soldiers to become head of state and said this would cause problems in the future. And it did. At Aburi, Ojukwu propositioned that Nigeria runs a weaker central system and returned to the regional system of government eliminated by Ironsi. Gowon and other Nigerian army officers were swayed by Ojukwu until they returned to Lagos, when some civil servants explained to Ojukwu that consenting to the Aburi Accord meant he would have lesser power, as powers would be returned to the regions. Pressured by the fear of losing the oil-producing Niger Delta to Ojukwu's region, Gowon reneged on his promise. The Aburi Accord was futile. In May 1967, the Republic of Biafra formerly eastern region of Nigeria, seceded and war broke out in July. I feel emotional reading that now because that was how over 5 million Biafrans were killed. Yes, that was what led to that war. That was just because somebody felt like it was going to be less powerful. As a northerner, that is unacceptable. That was how the war broke out, and 5 million people were killed. I hope you are following. Let's continue. So, Muritala's killings continued. Biafrans made the first violent move when they attempted to take over Nigeria's then Midwest region. This move backfired against Biafrans, as Midwestern and Western sympathy for the Biafran dissipated after the attack. Muritala was not satisfied by Nigeria's slow response. Muritala, through his civilian contacts, independently took steps to procure weapons for the impending war. Nigeria hastily formed a second division and made Muritala the GOC. Muritala poached soldiers from other divisions, commandeered armored vehicles, and built the new division from scratch. Muritala's new division had soldiers like Shehu Musa Yaradua, Chris Ali, and Sonny Abacha. Muritala's first task was to reclaim the Midwest region from Biafrans, and he did it hastily. But Muritala did not stop after sending Biafran soldiers out of the region. Members of the two divisions carried out a terrible massacre of civilians, so grotesque that Gowon had to apologize for it. Decades after the Civil War, hundreds of Igbo people in the Midwest were summarily executed. If all Nigerians forgot, victims of the Midwest cities of Asaba and Benin will forever remember Muritala's massacre. Muritala left bloodied Midwest and proceeded to Onitsha. At the last act of protection and isolation, the Onitsha Bridge connecting Midwest to the east was destroyed by Biafran soldiers. Muritala now had two restrictive routes to get to Onitsha. A dangerous and direct assault via a river crossing, or B, by crossing the Niger River unopposed via territory held by the neighboring 1 division, then proceeding overland to Onitsha. Realizing that the dangers and complexities of a direct river-based assault on Onitsha, Army headquarters advised Muritala to choose B. The arrogant Muritala did not want to cooperate with the Lieutenant Colonel Chua, who was his classmate in Zaria and Sandust. Muritala did not heed instructions and recommendations from Army headquarters, refused the wise counsel of Lieutenant Colonel Chua and Lieutenant Colonel Frank Aisida, who was one of Muritala's brigade commanders. Muritala proceeded to attack Onitsha via a river crossing, even though his navigational instruments were not working. The water level was high. He had no reconnaissance, and most of his troops were not soldiers with combatant missions. These problems were compounded by the fact that most of them could not even swim. Newly commissioned officers like Oladipo Dia and the Shola Williams were entering their first task in the Nigerian military. They were welcomed by the guns of Biafrans, led by Colonel Joe Aneba Achuzia. Muritala will attempt the crossing 2 more times, losing Nigerian soldiers of mid and low ranks in the attacks. One of his captains died in the assault. Yet Muritala was not punished for his act for the second time, for his acts of rebellion. And that wouldn't be the last time Nigeria would lose brave soldiers because of Muritala. After his failed attempt at capturing Onitsha, he begrudgingly agreed to cooperate with Shua. His indiscipline spilled into his division, and soldiers looted as they proceeded. Muritala would at different times coordinate attacks without planning with Shua. In March 1968, Nigeria suffered one of its biggest losses in the war. An opportunistic Biafran disobeyed orders and fired the single last mortar in the possession of the Biafrans at the Muritalas convoy. The plucky soldiers scored a direct hit on a vehicle in the convoy carrying ammunition, which ignited. The resulting fire set convoy of almost 100 vehicles ablaze. Nigeria would have avoided this tragedy if Muritala had taken orders, avoiding the Abagana route that was so narrow. It was difficult to reverse or turn. Muritala was recalled and replaced by Colonel Aruna, who struggled to conduct the 2nd Division, blah, 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 blah. Now, instead of punishing Muritala, he was promoted to colonel in April 1968 and brigadier in October 1971. In 1974, Gowon made Muritala the inspector of signal. Muritala still felt aggrieved that power was not shared with him despite bringing Gowon to power. Although by the end of the Civil War, Muritala had other preoccupations, his loyalists in the military did not go to sleep. Then the 1975 coup. It was the one coup that the victim, Gowon, was well informed and also had adequate time to quell. But Gowon's popularity was beginning to fade, despite being seen as Nigeria's Abraham Lincoln, reneging on his promise to cede power in 1976 tainted his popularity. The coup was executed by the same faction of soldiers that brought Gowon to power, this time led by Colonel Joe Garba, the commander in charge of the elite brigade of guards. This is the unit responsible for directly protecting Gowon. The head of police special branch, MD Yusuf, was informed of this coup. And when he told Gowon, he told Yusuf to stand down, that he would confront Garba when he returned from Kampala, where he was going to attend an OAU meeting. The coup had major actors like Shehu Yaradua, Ibrahim Taiwo, Mukhtar Muhammed, Alfred Aduloju, Paul Tarfa, Sonny Bello, Ibrahim Babangida, and Muhammadu Buhari. Muritala Muhammed did not participate in the coup, but he was visited by Yaradua and Garba, who met to inform him of the plot and convince him to become head of state. Muritala said little, shared his resentment for Gowon, and gave the plotters his support, promising to protect them in case the coup was foiled. Other top officers in the military were informed and were told to either look the other way or be killed if they attempted to prevent the coup. On the day coup was to take place, Muritala himself was in London. It was a bloodless takeover. By 2 a.m., the Lagos airport was sealed off and all roads to the airport shut. Communications were severed. Gowon was informed that he had been usurped while the General Assembly of the 12th OAU congregation was in session. The next challenge was announcing the next head of state. The plotters decided the three of their superior officers, Brigadiers Obasanjo, T.Y. Danjuma, and Muritala, would form a troika government. Muritala's plan was allowed to return to Lagos from London, and he furiously objected to the power sharing system the coup plotters devised. Muritala did not want to answer to anyone. The coup plotters knew that Muritala commanded support from combatant soldiers and threatened Muritala that if he refused to be the head of state on the power sharing terms, they would tell everyone the outcome of their meeting and select someone else as head of state. Muritala was angry and bitter, but eventually agreed to share power with Obasanjo and Danjuma. And any decision of the Supreme Military Council that lacked two-thirds majority support would not be executed. Muritala was outwitted. Now, Muritala as head of state, this was them. Muritala, Siroma, and Danjuma, Obasanjo, when they became head of state. In the archetypal Nigerian leadership format, Muritala's former sins were forgotten. Do you get that now? So if you have been following me with the history and story of Muritala, the celebrated criminal in Nigeria called Hero, okay, like many of them, yeah, he became head of state eventually. All his sins were forgiven and forgotten. Same way, all the sins and the crimes of Boko Haram were forgotten and forgiven when the real Nigeria happened. So in the archetypal Nigerian leadership format, Muritala's former sins were forgotten. Muritala immediately restructured the Supreme Military Council, retiring superior officers and promoting coup profiteers. Security chiefs were changed. Muritala opposed the appointment of MD Yusuf as Inspector General of Police because Yusuf had informed Gowon about the coup that brought Muritala to power. But it wasn't a solo government. MD Yusuf became Inspector General of Police. So it was clear from the outset that Muritala's governing style would be in a stark contrast to that of Gowon. While Gowon was diplomatic, conciliatory, and cautious, Muritala was brisk, volatile, and displayed decisiveness with major issues that bordered on impulse. To his credit, Muritala's leadership style prompted civil servants to be upright in their duties. Muritala also retired 10 of the 12 military administrators who were found guilty of enriching themselves under Gowon. Military governors formed the executive and legislative arm of government by their positions in the Supreme Military Council. Muritala curbed their powers by pushing them out of the Supreme Military Council, allowing for proper separation of power. Muritala also had governors serve in a region other than their region of origin. Aside Shehu Shagari, who happened to be a finance, and Ali Moguno, mines and power, all federal commissioners were found guilty of corruption, sacked, and government assets reclaimed from them. Muritala also sacked over 10,000 civil servants who fell into the old inefficient or corrupt categorization. On the international front, Muritala maintained a non-aligned posture towards the Cold War. Muritala meant business by record, yeah? All the world is a stage. For the first time in Nigeria's post-colonial history, Nigeria was led by a strict disciplinarian who did not look to anyone for counsel or look to favor anyone. This made many Nigerians become upright as everyone was afraid of being hit by Muritala's mace of discipline. But Muritala soon made his first mistake. In January 1976, he approved a wave of promotions in the military, the impunity, the typical northern impunity kicked in, okay? So in January 1976, he approved a wave of promotions in the military that was bizarre and unnecessary. These promotions' bizarre nature was soon exposed when many officers realized that officers that were junior to them were suddenly their seniors. Many officers were unhappy with this decision. His second mistake was his refusal to take his security seriously. Muritala did not use a motorcade like most Nigerian head of states and did not move into the state house. He continued to live in his Ikoyi residence while commuting to work in his Mercedes-Benz salon car. On Friday the 13th, 1976, a group of mutineers waylaid Muritala and opened fire on his car. The mutineers were so aggressive that one of them emptied an entire magazine, reloaded, and refired. The coup was led by Lieutenant Colonel Bukar Suka Dimka, one of the mutineers of the July 1966 counter coup. Let me rephrase that. The people that killed Muritala, Bukar Suka Dimka, is also a northerner, okay, who also participated in the program of 1966 of killing of Igbos when they killed Aguiyi Ironsi and made Gowon the head of state. So when Muritala's time came, the same people who killed Ironsi, the same people who worked and truncated 1960 and 1963 Republican Constitution, and the same people who worked with Ironsi and killed Ironsi, made Gowon president, head of state, they were the same people who came for Muritala, Buka, Suka, Dimka. Some of you know that name so well. If I can recall, it wouldn't be the last. Do you get that now? So it says here that the coup was led by Lieutenant Colonel Buka Suka Dimka. One of the mutineers of the July 1966 coup. It was the third time that a faction from the 1966 mutineers who attempt to take power from a sitting head of state. It wouldn't be the last. Do you get that? Yes. The same criminals overthrowing government, installing themselves, ran a country aground, led into civil war, killed over 6 million human beings to keep Nigeria one, are the same people terrorizing Nigeria from the word go. So they killed Muritala, right? So that was the story of how Muritala came to prominence, how your hatred for Igbos started, germinated, and so many people have benefited from it. Today they are parading themselves as elder statesmen across Nigeria, giving different speeches here and there, talking about one Nigeria, one Nigeria, one Nigeria. Read your history. You will realize that those champions of one Nigeria are the criminals who removed the true history from the history book and begin to tell you all fallacies. And when you look back and ask yourself, how come Nigeria is not working? It won't work. It is a contraption of injustice, a fake contraption of lies, where injustice is actually where they gain power. The day Nigeria begin to give justice to people from the north to the south, from the north central to the to the southeast, to northwest, to northeast, to southwest, to Niger Delta, everywhere all over the country, or the day Nigeria begin to do justice is the day that will be the end of Nigeria, because the Nigeria you have today is a fake contraption put together by criminals like this guy who was not elected. Fulani terrorists are telling you that they have right to be everywhere. You don't know where this is coming from. It is coming from the history of conqueror, the history of power. That
but now they know they do anything with the power. Every day, dollar just they get it higher power over naira. Still them talk say make we off mind, but thank God say Maiyegun